Hola a todos y bienvenidos a la clase de Español Uno. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Spanish 1. My name is Matthew Harrison, and I am excited to be your Spanish instructor for this semester. Um, so, I always like to make these little videos for every chapter just to give you a chance to kind of practice with the language as there are no required meetings for our course here in the online setting. It's good for you to hear how the words are pronounced. There are also little formative learning checks throughout the videos, so there will be opportunities where I ask you to mute the video or pause it and work out some problems, and then click play, make sure you got the answers right, that kind of thing. As we get into some of the more complex grammar structures, that will be important. So this is here just to help you along, make sure you're understanding. These videos are not in any way designed to be a substitution for reading the chapter or for studying the vocabulary. You still need to do those things, but I just like to give you this here as a little bit of supplemental help for those who need it. So here we are exploring Capítulo Uno, titled Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello, how's it going? Hey, what's up, we might say. So our learning objectives for this chapter, you should be able to greet and say goodbye, both formally and informally. You should be able to describe your classroom, your friends, and other people, to use numbers from 0 through 100, to be able to recognize letters in the Spanish alphabet, their pronunciation, and spell names. You should be able to demonstrate understanding of subject pronouns both in English and in Spanish. And finally, you should be able to create sentences using correct noun adjective agreement and complete sentences using the verb ser, which means to be. So that sounds like a lot, and it is. Chapter 1 is full of a lot of very valuable information, but stuff that is just so important for your future Spanish. So what I mean by that is this very first chapter has a lot of foundational skills that are going to be necessary for you to understand before you can move to future chapters. So it's very important that you have a very good, solid foundation and solid understanding of the contents of this chapter. So I want to get started very quickly with just a brief introduction to some vocabulary. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because there's actually a flashcard feature in MindTap in the program that we're using, and I'll show you what that looks like here. In MindTap, there's a little button over here to the right that says flashcards, and if you click on that, it will allow you to review all of the words that you see in this chapter. So you see a lot of classroom vocabulary here: la pizarra, the board; la bandera, the flag; el papel, paper; la mochila, a backpack; el bolígrafo, a pen. Lots of good vocabulary here that you definitely want to spend some time studying. Also, in this chapter, you see a lot of greetings. So, buenos dias, good morning; buenas tardes, good afternoon; buenas noches, good evening or good night. You have a lot of greetings. Hola, hello. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? Bien, I'm well, or mal, bad. ¿Y tú? And you? ¿Qué hay de nuevo? What's new? ¿Qué pasa? What's up? Nada, nothing. You have a lot of good vocab here, so I want you to spend a lot of time studying and learning these words. And remember, you always have this little flashcard feature in MindTap if you need that to help you, okay? I strongly recommend those. One little note here, this is one thing that makes Spanish really fun. We have a lot of different vocabulary words that reappear throughout the text, and in this case, vocabulary words that mean different things in different countries. So I just told you a second ago the word for pen in Spanish is bolígrafo. And that's true. If you're in Spain, they do say bolígrafo. But if you go over to Peru, they're going to use the word lapicero instead. And then finally in Mexico, they use the word pluma in Mexico. So I learned Spanish from a Peruvian when I was in high school. My high school Spanish teacher was Peruvian. And so we learned lapicero. That was the word for pen that I learned. So I went to college and I said lapicero, lapicero. And my professors were like, what? Lapicero? No, bolígrafo. So it's important for you just to know there are different words that are used in different countries. Pen is one of them, but we will explore many others this semester. So just kind of interesting. So this is one of those moments I was talking about earlier where I'm going to have you pause your video and work out some problems. So I want you to take a moment. I'm going to do number 1 with you here. And then when we finish and you understand what you're doing, I want you to pause your video, work out these questions, and then click replay so you can hear the answers. So number 1, well, first of all, on the left-hand side of the screen here, you're going to see questions that are asked, or statements, introductory statements. and you need to select the logical response that matches up with that question or statement to the right. Okay, so number one, we see, ¿Cómo te llamas? What is your name? ¿Cómo te llamas? And your options are A, soy de California, I'm from California. B, me llamo Marcos, my name is Marcos. C, nada. D, mucho gusto, nice to meet you. Or E, bien gracias, I'm well thanks. ¿Y tú? And you? So as you're looking here, ¿Cómo te llamas? What is your name? The best response is me llamo Marcos. My name is Marcos. So I want you to take a moment. I want you to pause your audio and give numbers 2 through 5 a try for me real quick. You can unpause when you're ready. Okay, now that you've got a second to try these, in number 2, you see ¿De dónde eres? Where are you from? ¿De dónde eres? To which the most logical response is Soy de California. I'm from California. Number 3, you see ¿Cómo estás? How are you today? To which the most logical response is Bien, gracias. ¿Y tú? I'm doing well, thanks. And you? And number 4, you're asked ¿Qué hay de nuevo? What's new? ¿Qué hay de nuevo? Well, nada. Nothing is new. Nada. And number 5, te presento a Jairo. Let me introduce you to Jairo, to which the most logical response is mucho gusto. Nice to meet you. Another activity, which you may see this week on MindTap or on a quiz perhaps, is a little activity such as this, where you're asked to select the items that belong and cross out the ones that don't belong. So in this case, this is titled En la mochila, in one's backpack, and you need to indicate which of these items from the list below could be found in a student's backpack, and I'll make this a little bigger so you can see. But our options here are la pizarra, a board, like a chalkboard or a whiteboard, el cuaderno, a notebook, el papel, paper, la silla, a chair, el bolígrafo, a pen, el escritorio, a desk, specifically a teacher desk, la puerta, a door, or los lápices, pencils. So out of these options, you can probably guess that el cuaderno, el papel, el bolígrafo, y los lápices can go into a backpack. The rest of these things cannot. So el cuaderno, el papel, el bolígrafo, and los lápices are the ones you would choose, and you probably cross out the ones in white here. Okay, you may be asked to do something like that on a quiz or a MindTap activity, so it's important you know how to do these things. That's why I incorporate these practice activities. Okay, one of our other learning objectives for this chapter is to demonstrate understanding of the phonetic sounds of the alphabet in Spanish, and also to be able to spell words and phrases aloud in Spanish. So just like when you're learning English for the first time, in kindergarten, one of the first things you learn is your alphabet, or maybe you learned that before kindergarten, I don't know. But when you're learning a language, one of the first things you learn is an alphabet. So as you go through here, you have A. I'm going to go through and read these in Spanish for you, all the way from A to Z. I do want to point out quickly there are some extra letters that are not in the English alphabet. Some of them I haven't listed here, but I will include for you in just a moment. But for example, between the C and the D, there's actually a CH in Spanish, and that's pronounced as che. So it's an extra letter. Between N, M, and O, there's Nye, Ine, and there's Inye. So regular N and N with a little tilde on top, like when you have señor or Mr. So Ine, Inye, there's an extra letter there. Same thing, there's an R, which in Spanish is ere, and there's a double R, erre. And then there's also a double L. So the one L here is ele, and the double L, eye. So you have me llamo, where the double L makes a Y sound. And we'll talk more about those in a second. But very quickly, I just want to go through and make sure you know how to pronounce these. And then I have a little song that I think is going to help you feel a little better about these. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay, so these are the letters of the Spanish alphabet. I don't know about you, but it would be really boring if we just went back through and kept repeating those over and over again. So I found a little song that I like to use. Now, if you were in my in-person class, I would make you sing this out loud with me. But I'm going to play this little song for you, and it should help you begin just to understand the pronunciation of those letters. And it makes a great shower jam if you're looking for something to keep practicing. So we're going to listen to these. It'll ask you to repeat it a couple of times, so feel free to sing along, and we'll make sure that you have a good understanding of these. Here we go. And you would repeat it back here. A, B, C, C, D, E, F. A,
B, C, D, E, F. Hey, H, I, J, K.
G, H, I, J, K.
Hey, H, I, J, K. L,
L,
L, E, Y,
E, Y.
N, N, N.
So you heard M, A, N, A, N,
O, P.
O, P.
Q, R, R, S, T.
Q, R, R, S, T.
Q, R, R, S, T. V, W, X.
U, V, W, X.
V, W, X. Y.
Y,
Z.
Z. Okay, so now that you've heard all of these, it's going to play again, and I want you to practice saying it back out loud, just like I did. You can pause it if you need to, but sing through and make sure you know these letters.
Z, yo sé el alfabeto. ¡Olé! A, B, C, J, D, E, F. A, B, C, J, D, E, F. Hey, H, I, J, K. Hey, H, I, J, K. L, L, E, Y, N, N, N. O, P, Q, R, R, S, T. Q, R, R, S, T. V, W, X. V, W, X. Y, Z. Yo sé el alfabeto. ¡Olé! A, B, C, J, D, E, F. A, B, C, J, D, E, F. Hey, H, I, J, K. Hey, H, I, J, K. L, L, E, Y, N, N. O, P, Q, R, R, S, T. Q, R, R, S, T. V, W, X. V, W, X. Y, Z. Yo sé el alfabeto. ¡Olé!
All right, so you got to hear your alphabet there. Hopefully, this is helpful to you. This video will be posted online on our course management system, so if you need to go into D2L and find this, you're welcome to do that. Okay, so practice makes perfect with the alphabet. So what I want you to do right now, I want you to grab out a piece of paper or a sticky note, an envelope, whatever you have in front of you, okay? Something to write with and write on. And I'm going to spell, well, this audio is going to spell something for you, and I want you to write out the letters that you hear, okay? And we're just going to practice to see how well you can identify these letters, okay? Here we go.
Lección preliminar. A responder. Listen to letters of the Spanish alphabet. Write each letter that you hear on a piece of paper and hold it up. Uno. L.
L. So the first letter that you heard on number one was L. L. What letter are you writing here for L? Yeah, it should be L. 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 Okay? Keep listening. L. L.
Dos. E.
E. E. What letter are you writing for E? Yeah, good. It should be E. 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 A, B, C, H, D, E, F. E.
3. J.
J. J. What letter is J? Well, you can sing your song. A, B, C, H, D, E, F. A, B, C, H, D, E, F. G, H, I, J, K. J is a J. J.
4. Ñ.
Inye. Inye. All right, I'm going to let these keep playing throughout the rest for you. Okay, and then we'll check them in just a second.
5. P. 6. I. 7. H. 8. B grande.
Okay, so let's check these. So we left off at number 4. So you heard inye. Careful. Ine is just plain old N, and inye is the N with the little squiggly on top, or a tilde, we call that in Spanish. So inye. In 5, you heard pe. Pe, you have to be really careful. It sounded like be a little bit. So pe is a P. Pe. Number 6, you heard E. E. Well, naturally, speakers of English hear E and then want to write the letter E. But unfortunately, E in Spanish is the letter I. E. Okay, so be careful. So letter E in English is pronounced as E in Spanish, and I is pronounced as E. Don't get those confused. Number 7, H. And number 8 was be grande. Be grande. Capital B. Be grande. Okay, so we're going to take this to the next level. Now, instead of just hearing the letter, you're going to hear an entire name spelled out, and you have to spell out the name that you hear. Okay, let's listen to the model. We'll do number 1 together, and I'll let you try some on your own. Here we go.
Lección preliminar. Actividad 8. Lista. Listen to someone dictate an invitation list for a party. Write down each name as it is spelled. Modelo. You hear D, A, N, I, E, L. You write Daniel.
1. X, I, M, E, N, A.
Okay, so number 1, you heard X, I, M, E, N, A. Jimena. Ximena is what you should have written down as your name for number 1. Okay, try number 2.
2. G, U, I, L, L, E, R, M, O. 3. A, L, E, J, A, N, D, R, A. 4. Y, O, L, A, N, D, A. 5. B grande. E, A, T, R, I, Z. 6. J, O, S, E, F, I, N, A. 7. H, U, G, O. 8. T, O, Ñ, O.
Okay, so hopefully you got some of those. I know this is practice, so remember, don't freak out if you didn't get them all. Okay, this is just practice. These are the names you should have gotten for numbers 2 through 8. I don't know why that says 9, sorry, 2 through 8. Let me very quickly help you with these. So in number 2, you heard G, U, I, L, L, E, R, M, O. And you should have written Guillermo, which in English is William, Guillermo. In number 3, you heard A, L, E, J, A, N, D, R, O. And number 4, Y, O, L, A, N, D, A. So on and so forth. And you heard all of these spelled aloud. Okay, so you will have some activities this week in MindTap and maybe on a quiz or a test where something is spelled aloud for you and you have to write out the letters that are being spelled. You might also be asked in a speaking activity maybe to spell your own name or something like that. So make sure you're practicing with the alphabet, feeling good about that, okay? Our next learning objective is that you can be able to identify Spanish-speaking countries from around the world, okay? Everybody hears Spanish and they go, oh, where do you speak Spanish? Oh, where's Spanish spoken? Oh, it's Mexico and Spain. And they immediately think of those places, but they forget about large parts of Latin America. So it's important that you're able to identify these Spanish-speaking countries on a map, that you know where they're located, and that you know that they exist. So I have a little song that's going to help you in identifying these on a map. So very quickly, we're going to listen to these. Again, this song will be posted on D2L, so you can always go back and reference it.
México, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panamá, Cuba, República Dominicana, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Perú, Chile, Bolivia, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, ay, ay, España, Guinea Ecuatorial. Son los 21 países donde hablan el español. Más de 500 millones de personas, como tú y como yo. Como tú y como yo. México, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panamá, Cuba, República Dominicana, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Perú, Chile, Bolivia, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, ay, ay, España, Guinea Ecuatorial. Son los 21 países donde hablan el español.
So you can see there are 21 countries where Spanish is spoken, not just 2. So make sure that you know that and that you familiarize yourself with those locations. Those are in your textbook, of course. You'll have more opportunities to practice there. Okay, as we keep moving, next, one of our next learning segments relates to the gender and number of nouns. And this is weird for people who speak English because, we have the word pizza in English. And pizza is not masculine, it's not feminine. Guys like pizza, girls like pizza, everybody likes pizza, okay? It doesn't have a gender, it's just pizza. Well, in Spanish, it's different. Every noun has a gender. It's either masculine or it's feminine. We know that a noun is masculine when it ends in an O, typically. That is the general rule. For example, el libro, the book, is masculine. It ends in an O. Now, does that mean that only guys read books? No, definitely not true. Okay, el libro. But the word libro is a masculine noun. Okay, you need to know that. Now, on the flip side of that, if a noun ends in an A, it is typically feminine in nature. So you see la pizarra, the board, the whiteboard. Does that mean that only women write on the board? No, it does not. But la pizarra is a feminine noun. So in general, if the noun ends in an O, it's going to be masculine. If it ends in an A, it's going to be feminine. Now there are exceptions to that rule, of course. And if you look over here in the teal box, you can see some exceptions. So el día, the day, el mapa, the map, el problema, the problem. All of those end in an A, but they're feminine. They have el, the masculine definite article in front, just like el libro. So even though they end in an A, they're still masculine. You just have to memorize these. Another good rule of thumb is we call these ma, ba, da words. So words that end in ma, ma, pa, or ta are going to be masculine. Ma, ba, da. So problema, mapa, etc. Over here you see feminine, and you see la mano, la foto, la moto. So even though these end in an O, they don't follow that general rule. They're feminine. So instead of el mano, you have la mano. Instead of el foto, you have la foto. So on and so forth. So in general, this works. If it ends in an O, it's masculine. Ends in an A, it's feminine. However, there are exceptions, and you just have to memorize those exceptions. Okay. Now let's talk about how to pluralize these nouns. If you have a noun that ends in a vowel, like libro, if it ends in an A, E, I, O, or U, a vowel, then to make it plural, you're just going to add an S. So one book is a libro, multiple books would be libros. If you have a noun that ends in a consonant, anything other than A, E, I, or U, then you're going to add ES to make it plural. Okay? And finally, if you have a word that ends in a Z, the Z is going to change to a C, and then you're going to add ES. There are some situations also where making a noun plural can change the accent that is written on a word. So for example, you have salón, classroom, and multiple classrooms would be salones. You lose the accent on the O. On the flip side of that, you have an examen, an exam, and exámenes, multiple exams with an accent on the A. So it just changes the written pronunciation, or the spoken pronunciation just a little bit of the word there. Okay, so to recap, if in general a noun ends in an O, it is masculine. If it ends in an A, it is feminine. To make a noun plural, if it ends in a vowel, you add an S. If it ends in a consonant, you add ES. And if it ends in a Z, you change the Z to a C, and then you add ES. So first, I want to give you a chance to practice with these. I know these are hard. I want you to look at the words that are listed here. First, I want you to identify if they are masculine or feminine. And then I want you to make them plural. Let's do number one together. It gives you a saludo, a greeting. Saludo ends in an O. We know, therefore, it is masculine. To make it plural, it ends in a vowel. So we're going to add an S. We end up with saludos. So I put M here for masculine, and I added an S to make it plural. I want you to pause your audio, and please give numbers 2 through 10 a try in the same way. Okay, make these plural and identify if they are feminine or masculine. All right, now that you've had a second to try these. And number 2, we're given the word actriz. An actriz is an actress, so a female actress. Obviously, this is feminine. And to make it plural, we're going to take our Z, we're going to change it to a C, and we're going to add ES. So you should get actrices. In number 3, you're given the word cafeteria, a cafeteria. It ends in an A, therefore it is feminine. To make it plural, it ends in a vowel, so we're going to add an S, cafeterias. Number 4, you're given the word rosa, a rose, rosa. It ends in an A, so it is feminine. To make it plural, it ends in a vowel. You're going to add an S, so you should get rosas. Number 5, doctor is a doctor. This is a male doctor, in this case, doctor. A female doctor would be doctora, doctora. And then to make this plural, it ends in a consonant. So in this case, we're going to add ES. You get doctores. Okay, so on and so forth here. I want to point out a few exceptions to this. Number 7, mano was one of your irregulars. It's not el mano, it's la mano. And to make it plural, you're going to add an S because it ends in a vowel, so you get las manos. Same thing down here with mapa. Even though it ends in an A, it is masculine. It ends in a vowel, so to make it plural, you're going to add an S, mapas. Be very careful with those. Okay. Hopefully, you're feeling good about these, but I want to give you a little more practice, again, with just making these singular and plural. So again, you're going to pause your audio and give these a try. If you're feeling good about pluralizing nouns, you can go ahead and fast forward a little bit to our next learning segment on numbers. Okay, but again, you're doing the same thing. You have the word cuaderno, a notebook. It ends in an O, therefore it is masculine. And to make it plural, you're going to add an S because it ends in a vowel. You get cuadernos. Let's look at number 1. Here you have mochila, a backpack, which is feminine, it ends in an A. And because it ends in a vowel, to make it plural, we're going to add an S, and we get mochilas. Okay, I want you to pause your audio and give numbers 2 through 10 a try for me here, please. All right, now that you've got a second to try, as we look at number 2, we're given the word lápiz, a pencil. Careful here, pencil ends in a Z. So you know that to make nouns that end in a Z, plural, we must first change the Z to a C, and then we must add ES because it ends in a consonant. So you get lápices as your final answer. Papel, paper, ends in a consonant. To make it plural, we're going to add ES. We get papeles. Pupitre, a student desk, is singular, and it ends in a vowel. So to make it plural, we're just going to add an S, pupitres. Reloj is a clock, and that is ending in a consonant. So therefore, to make it plural, we're going to add an ES, relojes. Bandera, a flag, is feminine and ends in a vowel. So to make it plural, we're going to add AS, banderas. Just add an S, the A was already there. Banderas. Libro, a book, again, libros, making it plural. Adding an S because it ends in a vowel. Cartel, a poster. In this case, cartel ends in an L, which is a consonant. So to make it plural, we're going to add ES, carteles. Televisor, in this case, ends in a consonant, ends in an R. So to make it plural, televisores. Examen ends in an N, it ends in a consonant. And this is one of the ones where the accentuation changes a little bit. So to make it plural, we're going to add an ES, but you also add a written accent on the A, exámenes. Exámenes. Okay, hopefully you're feeling a little better about pluralizing these nouns. Next, I want to take a look at numbers in Spanish, los números, from 0 a 20, from 0 to 20. We're going to start first with 1 through 10. You have 0, 0, uno, 1, just like the card game, dos, 2, tres, 3, cuatro, 4, cinco, 5, seis, 6, siete, 7, ocho, 8, nueve, 9, and 10, 10. So 0 to 10. You may already have known these. Maybe you learned those in elementary school or at some point in your life you just learned those. Maybe Dora the Explorer, 0 to 10. Those are your numbers. We're going to add 11 to 20 onto those. And you'll notice they're kind of similar. Once is 11. It looks like once, but it's pronounced as once. Doce, 12. Trece, 13. Catorce, 14. Quince, 15. And then 16 through 19 are my favorite. It's kind of like a math problem. Dieciséis literally is diez, 10, and seis, 6. So dieciséis, 10 and 6, 16. Diecisiete, 10 and 7, 17. Dieciocho, 18. Diecinueve, 19. And 20, 20. Just like you're going to Starbucks to get a venti, in this case, that comes from the same word in Latin. So in this case, you have veinte in Spanish, veinte. A venti at Starbucks is 20 ounces. So here you have 20, veinte. Okay. Careful with one thing. In just a second, we're going to talk about more articles and such, but uno, one, is never used in front of a noun. So you don't say uno gato, one cat. You lose the O, it becomes un gato, un gato. So just little notation there. Okay, I want to give you some practice with these numbers. It's going to give you a number in parentheses, and I want you to put that number in front of the noun. So for example, up here in the model, we have 16 cuadernos. We know that the number 16 in Spanish is diez y seis. So diez y seis cuadernos, 16 notebooks. In number 1, we have 20, and 20 student desk would be 20 pupitres. Okay, I want you to take a moment and try numbers 2 through 6 on your own. Please pause your audio, give these a try. You can unmute when you're ready. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, in numbers 2 through 6, in number 2, you see tres mapas, 3 maps, tres mapas, 11 pens, 11 bolígrafos. Number 4, 18 students, 18 estudiantes. Number 5, 9 dictionaries, 9 diccionarios. And number 6, 5 windows, 5 ventanas. Okay, hopefully you're feeling pretty good about those numbers so far. I want to give you a little more practice here. We're going to do some math. Oh my gosh, you thought this was Spanish class, didn't you? Man, you didn't know. Okay, so mathematics. Here we go. Matemáticas. You're going to be given a question, and you have to write out the math problem in Spanish. So, dos is 2, cuatro is 4, and your answer obviously is going to be 6. 2 plus 4 is 6. You're going to write out the math problem using the word más for plus, menos for minus, and son for equals in this case. So our model, dos, 2, más, plus, cuatro, 4, son equals 6, 6. So dos más cuatro son 6. 2 plus 4 is equals 6. Dos más cuatro son 6. Okay, let's do another one together. So in number 1, you have 8 minus 3 equals 5. So in this case, we're going to fill in 8, ocho. Minus in this case should be menos, almost looks like minus. Ocho menos and 3 is tres. Ocho menos tres son cinco. Okay, I have several here for you to try, numbers 2 through 9. I'd like for you to pause your audio. Please give these a try. You can unpause when you're ready. All right, now that you've had a second to try these, let's take a look. At number 2, you see 4 plus 4 should equal 8. So we have cuatro más cuatro, 4 plus 4, son ocho, equals 8. Number 3, we have 3 plus 6. Tres más seis, 3 plus 6, son nueve, equals 9. Number 4, siete menos siete, 7 minus 7, es cero, equals 0. Number 5, uno más nueve, 1 plus 9, son 10, equals 10. Number 6, 5 menos 2 son 3. 5 minus 2 equals 3. Number 7, 6 menos 5 son 1. 6 minus 5 equals 1. And number 8, 7 más 0 son 7. 7 plus 0 is 7. And number 9, 10 menos 8 son 2. 10 minus 8 gives us 2. So very careful with these guys. You will see things like this on your exam. So I want to make sure you know how to do that. You know how to write it out. If you've ever seen Dora the Explorer, maybe you already know these. But if not, just spend some time practicing. Pretty easy to do that. So, all right, as we continue on, in this chapter, you also learn about definite and indefinite articles. And people hear that and they're like, oh my gosh, what's a definite article? Well, we have these in English as well. A definite article in English is the, T-H-E, or the, depending on where you're from, the or the, T-H-E. In Spanish, there are actually 4 ways to say the. Yeah, you heard that right, 4 ways to say the. Depending on whether your noun is masculine or feminine, determines the form of the that you're going to use with a definite article. So, if you have a word that is masculine and it's singular, we're going to use el. If we have a word that is masculine and plural, los. A word that is feminine singular, we're going to use la. And a word that is feminine plural, las. Okay? So you have el, la, los, and las. Your 4 ways to say the in Spanish. We use these definite articles when we're talking about something very specific that has already been mentioned, something that we already know. So for example, ¿de dónde es el profesor? Where is the professor from? We've already met the professor. We know that he exists. Where is the professor from? Or, ¿de dónde son los estudiantes? Where are the students from? Okay, we've already met the students. We know they exist. Where are those particular students right there from? Okay, el, la, los, and las, your 4 ways to say the. On the flip side of that, you have some indefinite articles. And these indefinite articles refer to more inspecific things, non-specific nouns that maybe haven't been mentioned yet. These are translated as a or some. So for example, if you have a noun that is masculine and singular, you're going to use the indefinite article un to precede it. If you have a noun that is masculine plural, we're going to use the indefinite article unos. If you have a noun that is feminine and singular, you're going to use the indefinite article una. And a noun that is feminine and plural, you're going to use the indefinite article unas. Okay, so you can kind of cheat a little bit here. We talked about earlier how something ends in an A, it's feminine. So una is feminine singular, unas, feminine plural. If something ends in an O, it's masculine, you get un, or if it's masculine plural, unos, os. So you can kind of look at the end of your word and cheat to see which one of these you need to use. Here's another example of how it's used with those inspecific nouns. We're asking in this question, ¿hay una ventana en el salón de clases? So is there a window in the classroom? We don't really know. Is it there? Is there a window? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. We're not talking about a very specific window, that window right there, in which case we would use a definite article and say la ventana. Here we're just talking about a general window. Is there one? We're using an indefinite article, una ventana. Okay, and finally I want to talk to you about this word hay that is not pronounced as hey in Spanish. That is I. I translates as there is or there are. And it's usually used with an indefinite article, un, una, unos, or unas. For example, hay una pizarra en la clase. There's a board in the class. Or hay unos estudiantes inteligentes en la clase. There are some intelligent students in the class. Okay, you typically do not use an article whenever you're using I with a number. So, hay dos libros. There are 2 books. Hay dos libros. Okay, I want to give you a chance to practice here. You need to decide if you're using a definite or an indefinite article, and then circle the correct answer. So, for example, in number 1, we see that David in Spanish, David es estudiante in blank Universidad de los Estados Unidos. So either David is a student in una universidad de los Estados Unidos, a university in the US, or la Universidad de los Estados Unidos, the University of the United States. Well, I don't know about you, there's not a United States university that I'm aware of. It should be a university in the US. So we would say una Universidad de los Estados Unidos. Now, if you were talking about a specific university, ETSU, the University of Tennessee, we would say La Universidad de Tennessee. Okay, but David is a student in a university somewhere in the US, so una universidad is correct. Let's do just one more together. It says, en su salón de clases hay blank carteles. So in his class, there are blank posters. So there are unos carteles, some posters, or there are los carteles, the posters. In this case, we would say unos carteles. In his class, there are some posters. We're not talking about a specific poster right in this moment. We're just saying there's some posters there. Okay, so I'd like for you to take a moment now, pause your audio, and please give numbers 3 through 8 a try. When you're ready, you can unpause. Okay, let's take a look. So number 3, in his classroom there are some posters and blank window. So there are some posters and there is a window, una ventana. Number 4, blank ventana es muy grande. So blank window is very big. A window is very big, or the window is very big. Here we're referring to a specific window, so we're saying that the window is very big. La ventana es muy grande. Number 5, in blank mochila de David hay blank libros. So in blank backpack of David, there are blank books. So in this case, we're referring to a specific backpack. It's David's backpack. So we're saying in the backpack of David, la mochila de David, there are some books. Hay unos libros. And then in our last sentence here, también hay blank cuaderno para blank clase de español de David. So also, there's a notebook, un cuaderno, because it wouldn't make sense here to say there's the notebook. So there's a notebook for the class of Spanish of David. So there's a notebook for his Spanish class, un cuaderno para la clase de español. If you think about these in English and you try to say, well, a or some or the, generally you can figure out which one sounds better in the sentence. But also, again, ask yourself that question. Are we talking about a specific known object, or is it more of an indefinite or inspecific unknown object, and use that to decide? Okay, as we keep moving now, we're going to trek on to discuss numbers from 21 all the way through 101, and you've already learned from 0 through 20. So we'll pick up here with 21 and keep moving forward. So something to note about these numbers is that numbers below 30 are only one word. So for example, earlier you had 16, which literally translated to 10 and 6, 16, but we put it together as one word. When you get above 30, you begin to use the Y in Spanish, which means and, to combine two words. So 31 is 31, literally 30 and 1. So let's go back here and look at these. 21 was 21. So again, you have 20, 20, and uno, 1. But numbers below 30 are put together to be one word. So 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23. Again, it's just 20 and 2, 20 and 3, 20 and 4, so on and so forth. 24, 25, 26, so on and so forth. So basically, if you memorize from 0 through 30, and then you memorize your tens, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, you can write any word, any number, in the Spanish language. So let's look at those tens. You had, starting out with just the number 10, 10, 20, 20, 30, 30, 40, 40, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, 80, 90, 90, and 100, cien. Again, numbers below 30 are one word. Numbers 30 and above are multiple words. So 31 is 31, 30 and 1. 21 is 21, all one word written together. Literally, it is 21, but they compress it into one word when it's below 30. Okay? Now you can write any number in the Spanish language. So if you want to write 83, it's 80 and 3, 83. So you want to write 99, it's 90 and 9, 99, so on and so forth. Okay? Careful here. With the numbers 21 and 31, uno changes to just un when it's followed by a masculine noun. So 31 books are masculine. We would say 31 libros instead of 31 libros. It also changes to una when it's followed by a feminine noun. So instead of 31 sillas, we say 31 sillas, since sillas in this case is feminine. Okay, let's give you some practice with these. First, let's just make sure you understand this vocab. So I want you to decide if these statements are logical, lógico, or illogical, ilógico. And just put an L or an I, lógico, ilógico. Let's do number 1 together. You see here that hay un cuaderno en la mochila. There is a notebook in the backpack. I don't know, notebook in the backpack seems pretty logical. I'm going to put lógico. Read numbers 2 through 6 and decide if these are lógico or ilógico using that new vocab and those numbers we just learned. Okay, go ahead and pause your audio and unpause when you're ready. Okay, now that you had a second to take a look at these, in number 2 you see no hay una puerta en la clase. There is not a door in the classroom. That seems a little illogical, ilógico, because you had to come in there some way, right? Ilógico. Number 3, hay una estudiante en la clase. There's a student in the class, a female student. That's lógico. I feel like that's true. Number 4, hay 5 libros en el escritorio. There are 5 books on the desk. Seems pretty logical, lógico. Number 5, hay papeles en la mesa. There are papers on the table. That seems pretty lógico. And number 6, hay una pizarra en la silla. There's a board on the chair. Ilógico. That one doesn't make sense. Ilógico. Okay. Let's give you some practice with this word I. Again, not pronounced as hey. I, H-A-Y. And in this question, you will have some of these on your test. We're asking, ¿cuántos hay? How many are there? And it gives you a picture and you have to identify how many blank are in the picture. So for example, in number 1, you're asked, ¿cuántos mapas hay? How many maps are there? Well, if you look around the classroom in the picture, we see 2 maps over here on the wall. And we would answer and say there are 2 maps. Again, there is or there are in Spanish is I, H-A-Y. So I, 2, dos, and maps, mapas. So we would answer number 1 and say I, dos mapas. In number 2, you're asked, ¿cuántas sillas hay? How many chairs are there? Well, if we count, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Looks like there are 12 chairs. So we would answer and say, there are 12 sillas, chairs. Hay 12 sillas. There are 12 chairs. Okay? So hopefully you're feeling pretty good about that first half of our chapter. As we look into the second half here, you have new vocabulary related to descriptions. That goes along with our learning objective, to describe people. As you look at this little photo here, it looks like they're maybe in a park or something, un parque. You see 2 people walking over here. There's el hombre, a man, the man, and la mujer, the woman. Hombre, mujer. Hombre, mujer. Over here, you see another hombre and another mujer, and they're given some descriptions. This man is calvo, bald, calvo. If a female were bald, we would change the O to an A. Again, the O is masculine in Spanish, so one male who is bald would be calvo. A female who is bald would be calva. Multiple men who are bald would be calvos, and multiple women who are bald would be calvas. We describe this man as being calvo, bald, but we also describe him as being alto, tall. So again, one male who is tall would be alto. One female who is tall would be alta. Multiple men who are tall, altos with an OS. And multiple females who are tall, altas with an S. The woman here is described as being rubio, blonde. In this case, since she's a female, she would be rubia. Multiple men who are blonde, rubios, and multiple women who are blonde, rubias. She's described as being baja, short. Again, all of these are going to agree in the same way. When you're talking about one male, you're going to use an O. One female, you're going to use an A. Multiple men, you're going to use OS. And multiple women, you're going to use AS. And we'll be talking more about that a little later when we get to noun-adjective agreement. But just so you know, that's why there's the little A in parentheses next to all of these. So you have some other words. Pelirrojo or pelirroja, red-headed. Moreno or morena, brown hair, dark-headed you might say. And these 2, by the way, are children. So we had el hombre, a man, and la mujer a second ago. Down here we have 2 children. We have el niño, a male child, and la niña, a female child. Over here you have an old man. Old in Spanish is viejo. We could also say that he's pretty calvo also, pretty bald, but viejo, an old man, vieja, an old woman. Delgado, which in this case is like slender or thin. Delgado or delgada if you're a female. And then over here you have feo, ugly. Aw, poor little dog. I don't think he's ugly. So feo for a male dog, fea for a female dog. He's pretty grande though, big, grande. This is a little dog here. This dog is pequeño, small. A female dog would be pequeña. And then you have pretty, bonito, or a female who's pretty would be bonita. You've probably heard that before in songs and such. Okay, so these are all vocabulary words for this chapter. Again, you want to make sure that you study these using that flashcard feature in MindTap that we talked about. Lots of these describe personality, some describe personal characteristics. So agresivo, aggressive, antipático, mean or unfriendly, atlético, athletic, honesto, honest, famoso, famous. You have lots of these to memorize, okay? So please spend time with your vocab. Something else you see in this chapter are subject pronouns. Subject pronouns exist both in English and in Spanish. So you hear about personal pronouns like he or she. We have these same types of pronouns in Spanish as well. I've organized them in this box for you to kind of help you, and this is what I call the magical box of Spanish. If you learn the order of these in this specific box, order them in this specific way, it makes learning Spanish a little bit easier as you continue throughout the rest of the chapters, okay? So we have I, first person singular, you, and this is the informal form of you, he, she, you formal. So notice there's a difference in you informal and you formal, and we'll talk about more about that in just a moment. Over here we have we. In Spanish, there's a masculine version for we and a feminine version. Oops. We have you all, there's a you all only used in Spain and a you all used in all other countries. And then they masculine and they feminine. So these are your subject pronouns in English. Let's take them and put them in Spanish. And again, make sure you keep them in this order. It'll help you a little later. So I in Spanish is yo. You, informal in Spanish, tú. He, él. She, ella. And usted, you formal. Okay, so tú, you informal. Usted, you formal. We'll learn the difference in those in just a moment. Nosotros and nosotras both mean we. Nosotros refers to a group of men when saying we, or it can be a mixed group of men and women. In Spanish, when there's at least one man, we always dominate to the masculine version in this case. We default to that masculine version. Nosotras, however, refers to a group when multiple women would be saying we. So if your mom and your sister, they say, we're going shopping. Nosotras vamos de compras. So nosotras, we feminine in this case. Same thing here with vosotros and vosotras. You have you all in a masculine form or a mixed group, and vosotras, you all feminine. Ellos, they masculine, so all men or a mixed group, and ellas, they feminine, all females. And then ustedes, you all used in all of their countries. So these are your subject pronouns in Spanish. Let's talk about this difference in usted and tú very quickly. These are the two ways to say you. Remember that tú is the informal form, and usted is the more formal form. So we use usted when we want to show respect to someone. So when we're talking to an elder, someone who's older than us, when we're talking to our professor, a policeman, a judge, anyone to whom we want to show respect, maybe your mom's best friend that you've met for the first time, you're going to use usted when you want to be respectful with someone. Whereas tú, you're going to use people you know very well, your friends, your family, people your own age, you're going to use tú. So you'll notice over here to the right in this casual conversation between, it looks like two students, you see hola, ¿cómo estás? Hello, how are you? Notice ¿cómo estás is the informal way of asking someone, how are you? And then we answer and say, bien, I'm well. ¿Y tú? And you informally. So we're being very casual in this conversation. Over here, however, you see a student who looks like she's talking to her professor. So she's showing respect. She says, buenos días, señor Martínez. Hello, Mr. Martinez. ¿Cómo está usted? How are you formal? So notice the only difference in ¿cómo estás and ¿cómo está usted is that here we're using the informal version and here we're using the formal version. So how are you formal? And he responds back, bien, gracias, ¿y tú? Notice he still says ¿y tú? Because he doesn't necessarily, when speaking back to her, she is younger. So in this case, he's using the more informal version, ¿y tú? ¿Y tú? So to recap here, remember, ¿cómo estás and cómo está usted both mean how are you? We use usted, the formal you, when we're talking to people we don't know, strangers, when we're talking to our elders, or just anybody in general with whom we want to show respect. We use tú, the informal form of you, with people who are our own age, relatives, our friends, family members, anybody we might call by our first name. So notice she didn't go up to Mr. Martinez and call him Jorge. She just went up to him and called him Senor Martinez, Mr. Martinez, and therefore she used usted. So in the same way you might greet your friend's parents as Mr. and Mrs. Carell instead of Beth and Chad, you're going to make sure that you are using the formal version here in Spanish as well. Okay, so let's give you a little practice with this. You need to decide between tú, you informal, and usted, you formal. So if you're talking to a kid, a little child, which one are you going to use, tú or usted? Probably tú, because the child is obviously most likely younger than you. What about un policía? When you're talking to a policeman or a policewoman, you want to make sure that you're showing respect in this case. So you're going to use usted. Okay? I want you to try the rest here, numbers 2 through 6. Go ahead and pause your audio and give these a try for me. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, in number 2, we're talking to un profesor, a professor. We want to show respect, so we're going to use usted, you formal. Number 3, we're talking to our mamá, our mother. So in this case, we know our mom pretty well probably, so we're going to use the informal form of you, tú. Number 4, we have un amigo, a friend. So again, a friend is someone we likely know well, so we're going to use the informal form of you, tú, here. Number 5, el presidente. The president is someone to whom you want to show respect, whether you're talking about the president of a university or the president of a country. You want to be respectful, so we're probably going to use usted. And number 6, un estudiante en la clase de español. A Spanish student, someone you maybe know, someone your own age, you're probably going to use tú. Let's hop back over to these subject pronouns for a second. These, again, are probably one of the most important things you'll take away from this chapter, so I want to make sure you know these. Again, yo, I, tú, you, so on and so forth. I'm going to give you a name, and I want you to tell me how you're going to replace these in Spanish. So for example, Sherry. You have to think, well, would Sherry be I, you, he, she, we, they, or you all? Sherry, when you're talking about her in the third person, Sherry would be she. So Sherry goes to the mall, she goes to the mall. We're going to use she or ella in Spanish to replace Sherry. What about Matthew? Well, Matthew in Spanish would be he. Matthew goes to the store, he goes to the store. So we're going to replace Matthew with he or él. Okay, these next two are a little tricky. You have Sherry and I. This depends. Well, first ask yourself, Sherry and I, would that be I, you, he, she, we, they, or you all? Well, obviously, Sherry and I would be we, but you have to decide, well, who's speaking? If a woman is speaking and she says Sherry and I, we're referring to two females, so we're going to use we feminine, nosotras. But if a male is speaking and he says Sherry and I, we're referring to one male and one female. And remember, if there's at least one male, we always default to the masculine version. It's going to be nosotros. Okay, on the flip side of that, Sherry and Matthew refers to one male and one female. Sherry and Matthew would be I, you, he, she, we, or they. It's going to be they. So Sherry and Matthew would be ellos, they. Hopefully that makes sense. You may be asked in some of your MindTap activities this week to identify the correct pronoun. So in this case, you see this woman in the yellow shirt. She's going to be in all the graphics I'm about to show you. In this case, she's pointing to this woman over here, and she's trying to say she, ella. And number 1 here, this woman is pointing to two people, one man and one woman. So to say they, she would say, good, she would say ellos, ellos, they masculine. So at least one man here. I want you to pause for a second and try numbers 2 through 6. Give these a try. See if you can figure out what she's talking about here. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, in number 2, it looks like she's actually having a conversation with this woman, and she's saying, you, how are you? They look to be about the same age, so she's probably going to use the tú form here, tú, or you. In number 3, she's pointing to herself. She's saying, I, so we should use yo, yo. In number 4, she's having a conversation again. She's saying you, but this man looks to be quite a bit older than her, maybe a professor. He's holding the book, so she's trying to be respectful. She's going to say usted, usted. In number 5, she's hugging these two girls, and she's saying we. So nosotras, with an AS, because they're all feminine, nosotras. And over here, she's pointing to these two girls over here. She's saying they, both of whom are female, so they feminine would be ellas. Okay? Hopefully you're feeling okay. with those subject pronouns. In number 6, again, we're making a couple substitutions. Same thing. In this case, you see names. Silvia y Alicia. We're talking about two females. So Silvia y Alicia would be ellas. Felipe, we're talking about one male. He would be él. Rebecca, one female. She, ella. I want you to try numbers 3 through 8 very quickly on your own and see if you can identify the correct subject pronoun again. Okay? Now that you've had a second to try these, let's take a look. Number 3 says, tu amigo y Ricardo. So your friend and Ricardo. So to say they, we're going to say ellos. Number 4, Regina or she, ella. Number 5, la señora Marcos, Mrs. Marcos or she, ella. Number 6, Javier y yo, Javier and I. There's at least one male here, so to say we masculine, we're going to use nosotros. Number 7, Lola, Ana, Sara, y Luis. So multiple people here, at least one of whom is a male with Luis, so we're going to use ellos, they masculine. And Miguelito, little Miguel, Miguelito, talking about he, we're going to use él. I know that I've really emphasized these subject pronouns, guys, but you will really appreciate that later if you know what these mean. It's going to make your life a lot easier later. Okay? Next, we're going to take a verb and we're going to add it to these subject pronouns. So this verb is ser. Ser means to be in Spanish. And I don't know about you, but I don't walk around saying I to be, you to be, he to be. We don't speak like cavemen and cavewomen. So I want to say I am, you are, he or she is, so on and so forth. So when we take the verb ser and we change it to am, is, are, in that case, we're conjugating a verb. So when you take ser and its infinitive form, to be, and you change it to a conjugated verb, there's a little process involved. So instead of saying yo ser, I to be, we say yo soy. Instead of saying tú ser, you to be, we say tú eres, you are. Él, ella, usted, es, nosotros, somos, vosotros, sois, y ellos, ellas, ustedes, son. So your ser conjugations are soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. Say those back with me, please. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. These are your ser conjugations. Again, I kept all these subject pronouns in a certain order, and I filled them in here for a reason. So soy, I am. Eres, you are. Es, he or she is. Somos, we are. Sois, you all in Spain are. And son, they or you all are. We use this verb ser when we're talking about someone's description. So it's in this chapter because you're learning all these descriptions like bald and redheaded and ugly and nice and those kind of things. So if I want to say that I am nice, yo soy simpático. If I want to say that you are tall, eres alto. Or if you're a female, eres alta. Okay, so you're combining those vocabulary words that you learned with ser to create a sentence. So ser can be used to talk about what someone's like. Ser can also be used to identify something. So I could say, yo soy Manolo. I am Manolo. Or yo soy Matthew. I'm Matthew. We also use ser to talk about someone's origin. ¿De dónde eres? Where are you from? That was a vocab word in this chapter. But eres, in this case, is the to form of ser. So we're using that informal to ask, how are you doing? ¿De dónde, or excuse me, where are you from? ¿De dónde eres? Okay, and again, describing what someone's like. Él es alto. He is tall. We use es, the he or she form of ser. Pero ellos son bajos, but they are short. We used the ellos form of ser to say are. So you can kind of think of es as is and son as are. Okay, I know that's a lot of information. Let's take a moment and see if you can just match these up. And in a second, we'll let you make your own sentences. So here, I ask you to pair these up. It gives you a number 1, yo, and you have to find the correct ser word that goes with yo to finish the sentence. Well, we know in number 1 that yo goes with soy. So we have yo soy optimista. I'm an optimist, or I'm optimistic. We've matched those two up. I want you to try to see if you can match up numbers 2 through 5. Okay, number 2 says Rafael y Carlos. You have to ask yourself, well, Rafael and Carlos would be I, you, he, she, we, they, or you all. We know that Rafael and Carlos would be they. So if we find the they box, ellos, we know that ser is the correct conjugation to go with ellos. And therefore we should say Rafael y Carlos son guapos. Number 3 gives us la profesora, the professor, or she. We know we're talking about one person who is a female, so to say she, we're going to go back and use our ella box, and the said word to go with she or ella is es. So we should say la profesora es joven. She's young, es joven. Number 4, tú, you informal. We know that the word for tú, the said word that goes with tú, is eres. So we should say tú eres inteligente. And finally, number 5, Maite y yo. Maite and I would be I, you, he, she, we, or they. We know that Maite would be we. Nosotros. If we find the said word that goes with nosotros, it should be somos. So we end up with Maite y yo somos trabajadores. We are hardworking. Okay, so you could match these up, hopefully. Now let's take it to the next level. Let's go through and make sure that you can fill in a paragraph when using the word ser. And you'll be writing your own sentences some later in this class on some of your writing activities in MindTap and your compositions, so on and so forth. But let's make sure you know how to do this. So you're given a paragraph here, and Antonio is speaking, and he says, Hola, yo blank Antonio. To say that I am Antonio, we need to use the ser word that goes with yo. So if you go back and look at your chart, we would say yo soy Antonio. And in number 2, he says, Yo blank de Santiago, Chile. So hello, I'm Antonio, and I am from Santiago, Chile. So in this case, the said word again to go with yo would be soy. So we're going to say, Yo soy Antonio y yo soy de Santiago, Chile. I want you to pause your audio, please, and give numbers 3 through 7 a quick try. See how you do here. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, in number 3, we see mis amigos, Laura y Victor. So my friends are Laura and Victor. To say my friends are, we would say mis amigos son, because we know that mis amigos will be my friends or they, and the said word to go with they is son here in our bottom right box. So mis amigos son Laura y Victor. Nosotros blank estudiantes en la Universidad de Santiago. To say that we are students in Santiago University, the said word to go with nosotros in this case is somos. So we would say nosotros somos estudiantes en la Universidad de Santiago. Laura blank estudiante de biología. So Laura is a biology student, biología, and to say that she is, Laura would be she. We go back and find our subject pronoun she or ella, and we know that our said word to go with ella should be es. So we're going to say that Laura es estudiante de biología, and Victor and I, we are students in political science. Victor y yo somos estudiantes de ciencias políticas. Again, we know that Victor and I would be we, and our said word to go with we or nosotros is somos. And then finally, ¿y tú? ¿También eres estudiante? And you? Are you also a student? Our said word to go with tú in this case, again, would be eres. So hopefully, feeling pretty good about these said words. All right, the last thing I want to talk to you about today is adjective agreement. And we sort of alluded to this earlier. So in Spanish, you have the O that refers to something being masculine, and the A that refers to something being feminine. We need to make those agree with the person to whom we're talking about. So if we're talking about one male, our adjective is likely going to end in an O. If we're talking about one female, our adjective is going to end in an A. Multiple males, OS. Multiple females, AS. Or a mixed group, still OS. So in this case, you also have some exceptions to that rule. You have some adjectives that don't end in O or A. Some may end in A, some may end in E, or or somebody ending in a consonant, like an R. So there are some that don't always change. A good example of that is trabajador, hardworking. A male who's hardworking is still just trabajador. There's no such thing as trabajadoro with an O on the end. But a female who's hardworking, we add an A to that, and it becomes trabajadora with an A on the end. Multiple men who are hardworking, you may remember from earlier, trabajador ends in an R, a consonant. So to make it plural, we're going to add es. We get trabajadores. And trabajadora, a female who's hardworking, to make that plural, it ends in a vowel, an A. So we get trabajadoras, multiple hardworking females. So I want to give you some examples here. We have el profesor and la profesora, a male professor, el profesor, and a female professor, la profesora. So we're saying the male professor is short, el profesor es bajo, and la profesora es alta. So alta ended in an A here, and it had to agree with profesora, which also ended in an A, and la. So you can kind of cheat. La profesora alta. All feminine singular all the way around. El profesor being short, he is bajo, a short male. Our second one here, you see los niños. Say that the children are intelligent and they're nice. Los niños son simpáticos. You see that simpáticos ends in an OS because it has to agree with niños, multiple male children, or a mixed group, and los, which ends in OS. So it matches all the way across. Los niños simpáticos. Our original adjective here was just plain old inteligente, to say intelligent. It ended in an E though. So to make it plural, it ended in a vowel. We just needed to add an S, inteligentes. Okay, and another example, mis amigas, female friends in this case, ending in AS. To say they are honest, we took the adjective honesto, we took the O away and added an AS and made it honestas when referring to multiple females. And we took trabajador, hardworking, we added an A for one female and an S for multiple females. So my female friends are trabajadoras y honestas, hardworking and honest. This chart kind of summarizes everything we just talked about. So if it ends in an O, to make it plural, you add an S. If it ends in an A, to make it plural, you add an S. If it ends in an E, it does not get an O in the masculine version. Sociable is a male who is sociable. Sociable is also a female who is sociable. And then to make them plural, you get sociables. Same thing here with ideal. A male who is ideal, ideal. And multiple men who are ideal, ideales. Same for the feminine form. So just take note of these. Usually the situation you see, it ends in an O if it's masculine, an A if it's feminine, and then you add the S's. But there are exceptions like trabajador, trabajadores, trabajadora, and trabajadoras, as we've talked about before. I know these can be a little tricky, so let's get you a little more practice here. In this particular activity, you are given a sentence talking about one person, and then it talks about their spouse, who is the total opposite. You know, you've heard that opposites attract. So in this case, number one, Fernando es tímido. We're saying he's timid. Tímido ended in an O because we're talking about Fernando, one male. But his wife, she's the opposite of timid, so we might say that she is extroverted. In this case, extrovertido with an O is extroverted, but we're talking about a female, an esposa in this case. So we need to make it agree. We're going to change that O to an A, and we would say that su esposa es extrovertida. You also might have used sociable here, sociable, which is also okay. Let's try a couple more here. I want you to pause your audio, give numbers 2 through 5 a try. Again, you're just selecting the opposite adjective, and you're making it agree. Okay, go ahead, pause your audio, and give this one a try. Okay, amigos, now that you've had a moment here, number 2 says, mis amigas son delgadas. My friends are skinny, y sus esposos, and their spouses are blank. Well, the opposite of skinny is fat. Fat in Spanish is gordo. So I bet I'm just going to type here, and I bet I'm just going to write gordo, right? Unfortunately, no, because sus esposos, we have multiple spouses here, ends in OS, so we need to make gordo agree with the masculine plural version. So we're going to add an S. We get gordos. It says that Marcos es trabajador. Marcos is hardworking, but his wife, she's the opposite of hardworking. She is lazy. So we're going to take the word lazy, I bet, which we know is perezoso. Perezoso. And am I finished there? No, because esposa in this case is feminine, so we have to make it agree. We're going to take the O, change it to an A, because we're talking about one female in this case. Same thing here with your last two. Mis amigos son cómicos. My friends are funny. And their spouses are the opposite of funny. They're serious. So we had female spouses here, esposas, and we changed it to serias. Serias, to make it agree with esposas. Susana es simpática. She's nice. And her husband, though, he's not very nice. He's mean. So we're going to take mean, antipático. And we don't have to do anything to it in this case to make it agree. We just leave the O on because it agrees with esposo. Okay, and I threw this in here for you just because I thought it was fun. If you're interested in zodiac signs, you have los signos zodiacales y la personalidad. And it gives you your zodiac sign and your birthday, and it gives you some adjectives about you. So I'm wondering, ¿qué es tu signo? ¿Y cómo eres? What is your sign and what are you like? Yo soy un cáncer porque mi cumpleaños es el 22 de junio y yo soy trabajador y emocional. So it says that I am hardworking and emotional, and I'm a cancer. I would agree with that. Pretty good. Okay, guys, so hopefully we have come full circle here. You now, after successfully completing this chapter, should be able to greet and say goodbye in Spanish, both formally and informally. You should be able to differentiate between formal and informal registers and know when to use tú, when to use usted. You should know your numbers from 0 through 100 and be able to perhaps exchange a phone number. You should be able to spell names and various words in Spanish. You should be able to demonstrate understanding of your subject pronouns, I, you, he, she, we, they, both in English and in Spanish. You should be able to create sentences using the verb ser to explain, to describe someone, like yo soy alto, or in this last example, we said yo soy trabajador, yo soy emocional. And then you should be able to create sentences with proper noun-adjective agreement. So yo soy alto, because I'm a male and I'm tall, but ella es alta, because she's a female and she's tall, right? Hopefully you're feeling pretty good about these things. Again, as always, if you have any questions, I am always here to help you guys. Feel free to drop me an email at any time. If you're having trouble with MindTap, whatever it might be, please, please, please email me. I am here to help you any way I can. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.